The Australian Human Rights Commission has criticised policies to address youth justice being promoted in the lead-up to the Queensland election as a race to the bottom. National Children's Commissioner Anne Hollonds says both sides of politics need to acknowledge the evidence which shows locking up children does not keep communities safer. Anne Hollonds joins me now. Commissioner, good morning. Thank you for your company.
Hi, Dan.
Which election promises or commitments is it that have particularly worried you?
All of them, Dan. I think this is not a party political thing. I think that we see in some jurisdictions where youth crime is seen to be a bit of a political football, that everyone tries to sound tougher than the other side, and that sort of plays well, I guess, politically. But I think what we need to do, and I'd encourage the public to be asking the question, where is the evidence that any of these ideas are going to work to keep the community safer?
And, we know that Queensland already has some of the toughest youth crime laws in the country. So is this, to expand on the point you just made, really about reaching out to the electorate ahead of the election, which we know is just months away?
They're trying to reach out to the electorate to win votes. What I'm calling for is for our leaders on all sides to have the courage to say, all the evidence shows we've got it wrong. We've approached the problem of youth crime by tinkering at the justice end, but no more policing and more incarceration of children. All of that will not work to keep the communities safer. That's what we've shown here in Australia, and it's been shown internationally. What we need to do is to focus on the underlying drivers of this kind of negative behaviour and address things like the poverty, the homelessness, the disadvantage, the disabilities that the majority of these children have, often leading to their disengagement from school. And Dan, if a child's not at school, where are they? They're likely to be on the streets and to be getting involved in negative behaviours. I've spoken to 150 of these children for this project, for a report that's being tabled in Parliament next month, and they were in prisons or in the community, and you can see that they are kids who are missing the basic needs in life. And so in a way, you can understand the crime better as a cry for help to address the basic needs of children. So we have collectively failed them, and we need to collectively work together, I believe, as a federation to prevent these problems occurring.
And based on that piece of research that you did, Commissioner, and the many conversations you've had in this role and over many, many years, what do you see as the risk to young people based on the politics that we're seeing right now, particularly in Queensland?
Well, there are many risks, but the bottom line is we're not understanding that they are children. And not only are they children, they are the most vulnerable children in this country. And we have obligations to them. We have obligations under international treaties like the Convention on the Rights of the Child. But we also have a moral obligation to recognise that if a child is committing a crime, that is a sign they need care and protection. And we are ignoring their needs until ultimately the only thing we can think of to do is to lock them up, which we know from evidence will only criminalise them further and further make the community less safe.
And if you were to speak directly to the politicians making these policy announcements in the lead up to that Queensland election, what would you be telling them to do right now? What do you want to see them announcing in this election campaign ahead of that vote?
I think this would be a terrific time for leaders to stand up and have the courage to say we've got it wrong and we want to transform our approach. I'd also like to see them, calling our Attorney General, Mark Dreyfus, and saying this is a national problem. The underlying drivers of these issues are not something that Queensland or any state and territory can fix on their own. Things like poverty and disadvantage. States and territories can only go so far with those issues. Just like we deal with other issues, as a priority for National Cabinet, like women's safety. We've seen a lot about that lately. I think that the safety and well-being of our children must be made a National Cabinet priority, and then we've got a chance to start working together to address those underlying factors.
Commissioner, just finally, we're seeing this discussion happening across the Queensland border in Alice Springs right now. We are expecting an announcement sometime today from the NT government about whether they expand and extend that curfew. What would you say needs to happen there? And what, based on your experience, particularly in the Northern Territory, what's your observation about what we're seeing there in Alice Springs in this national public debate?
Look, I think these negative behaviours from children and young people are entirely predictable because of their circumstances. I saw Minister Burney was on your program I think earlier this week, and she said herself that these are kids living in poverty with no hope for the future. And that is exactly what I experienced, the heartbreaking sense of hopelessness and a lack of hope for the future from children. We want all our children to have the best start in life and to be able to have visions and dreams and to have that confidence that they have a future. So, what we need to do in places like Alice Springs, which I know you've covered extensively, and there are those multiple complex factors, is to take a multidisciplinary approach. This is not just policing. It requires the health department, the education officials, the social services and family support officials to be getting together in multidisciplinary teams and listening to what communities themselves say they need. And they're very clear about the fact that they are not able to get the help that they need. So the people who most need the help are unable to get it, and we need to fix that.
National Children's Commissioner Anne Hollonds, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Dan.